let's talk about tracing. Uh-oh. Very scary word already. A lot of people have one opinion on tracing. Tracing is bad! If you don't know what tracing is, it is basically drawing over the outline of something pre-existing and making changes to it. You could trace over somebody else's art, over a photograph, and there's even more. In this video, I will be doing a deep dive into different types of tracing with several examples, and you will have to let me know in the comments, which of these do you find acceptable, if any? For the sake of this video, I will be playing a character, and I will be playing a new artist who wants to make art of my very original OC, Pink Alien Cat. This will be example 1. I want to draw a pink alien cat. I go to Google, and I Google an image of an alien cat. For purposes of this video, I will be using my own drawings of my normal alien cat. I find a drawing, I screenshot it, this looks perfect! I take the drawing to my drawing software. I trace over the line art. I then recolor it to be pink, and boom, it is now my totally original OC. This is what most people have in mind when they hear the word tracing. It's pretty much just a one-to-one copy. Now, we move on to example 2. For this example, maybe I want to work off of a base. I Google cat bases, and I find this one, which I also just made. Then I edit it to make it look like an alien cat. Maybe I have a little more skills. I even added a cool background. This one is not super traced because I was just editing a base that somebody else provided. What do you think about this? Would you consider the piece that I made to be my original artwork? A lot of people do use bases a lot, especially when making adoptables, which you can learn more about this in my deep dive I made on adoptables last year, which I will link in the description. For example 3, I will be using a photo reference. I'm still a novice artist, so I googled a cute photo of a cat and decided to trace over it to make my very own alien cat. I'm pretty much taking the shape of the cat and converting it to a drawing. Side note, I decided to make of the alien cat more complicated here, and I don't know why I did this because then it made my life harder in the future. I love to overcomplicate things. A lot of people do make drawings in this style. It's actually a pretty popular commission type on websites like Etsy, where people just trace over provided photos of people or animals as like a gift. These are usually the types of drawings that don't have like faces, like if you know what I'm talking about, because tracing the faces is kind of hard. I don't want to include a photo here of anyone else's artwork, but you can imagine it in your mind. And I will ask you, is this still tracing? What if the image that I used was free for use and in the public domain? Or what if the image was provided to me by a client and I'm just tracing over their image that they gave to me? Time for the 4th example. In this example, I am a bit of a more experienced artist, and I found a cat photo online to use as a base. I'll now be turning that photo into my alien cat, using mostly tracing, but also a lot of my own stylistic elements. This is the start of me really regretting changing the chest of the alien cat to be that lighter pink color for whatever reason that I did that. With this style of tracing, we end up with kind of a weird in-between of like realism and an original artwork style. I will say, because I didn't want to spend forever on these, I only spent like 30 minutes and maybe I cut some corners. But 30 minutes is still kind of a long time, so it was not like a super quick shortcut to use this photo. I actually think it kind of made my life harder because I was drawing an alien cat and then I had to interpret this photo as an alien, so drawing the eyes was like really hard. I don't know. What do you think of this method and the result? Would you consider this to be acceptable? And what if I had just opened the photo in the corner and used it as a reference and just looked at it while I was drawing? This is something a lot of people do. Alright, it's time for our final artwork, which is number 5. In the spirit of honesty, I will say that I do this style of like modified tracing a lot. This is what I would call, because I don't know if it really has a name, using the photo just to place elements. It's probably not the best example, again, because this photo was low-key kind of complicated, and I wouldn't really need a photograph to draw a cat in this like position, the chest up of a cat, but for that video, I wanted to compare it to example number 4. In this drawing, it's basically like what I would actually do in real life. So I add a photo to my canvas, and then I map out a really rough sketch of where the elements of the subject would lay. Then I draw over it, usually with another sketch where I start converting it to my own style. I start skewing and warping elements. I try and think of how it would fit in with how I normally like to draw. Sometimes I do that like 3 to 5 times if it's a really complicated pose. Then I kind of go over and I use my own coloring and shading and added my own elements. Sometimes I do line art, a lot of times I do lineless. In this drawing, I ended up giving the cat a tail, which was not on the reference image, and I gave it a much different expression, and I added a lot of other things, so it kind of doesn't really look like the reference image at all. What do you think about this method? I mostly use this when I'm trying to draw really complicated poses of humans or animals, and I kind of consider it to be fully transformative because it really doesn't look like the photograph at all, and you only use the photograph to be like, where are the eyes in proportion to the nose, and things like that. I also usually will take my own photos for this, especially if it's of a human, because I just consider that to be even more transformative. So there are other types of tracing too, which I did not include in this video. Some people, and professionals also do this, I learned, will just trace certain elements of a drawing. Like they will use a photograph of their hand and they will trace over that for the hand. I also started doing this once I learned that other people did that. Some people use a technique called photo bashing, where they combine several elements of different photos into one creation and they trace over that. I also do this. Sometimes when I'm trying to take reference photos and I can't take perfect photos of myself, I will take multiple photos of myself, I will combine them into one photo, and then I will trace over that. I'm sure that there are other forms of tracing too that I did not get to cover in this video. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments section on this subject. It's something that's really divisive and it's not really talked about that much because it's kind of like if you mention tracing, everyone's like, go die. I don't know. It's also really subjective. Like I would say people would be able to identify through example 3 definitely as being traced, but maybe not the 4th one and probably not the 5th one, I think, because I don't even really feel like that one was traced. This is also something that changes with your skill level. As you progress, your tracing would become a lot less obvious. I was doing some of these drawings with a lower skill level on purpose as the examples. So it's not on me to tell you what is or isn't acceptable because it varies depending on the person and the situation. For example, you might be crediting the original artist or photographer, or you might even have their permission to trace over it. Or are you only using it for personal use, or are you posting the images publicly, or are you trying to sell your artwork? This video is mostly to make you think more about how tracing can be a lot more complex than just example 1. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!